And that's probably the last thing bass boat guys think about when they're setting up their boat, and it makes a huge impact. How's it going, everybody? Today we're talking about how to pick out the right size fish finder screen for your particular bow setup. And that's coming from firsthand experience with the 93 SV, 106 SV, 8612 GPS map, and then the Get Fish Marine 19-inch. Let's jump into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is ergonomics. This is probably the last thing a lot of people talk about when it comes to a boat setup, but it's hugely important for not only the ergonomic assessment of your body as you're using the machine, but also just from an overall visibility standpoint and how you feel at the end of the day of fishing. If you are a Livescoper, you probably have had some shoulder pain, some knee pain or something from being hunched over looking at a screen. And that has a lot to do with the setup that you have going on in your boat. It could be from a little screen mounted flat on the deck, bigger screen raised up, medium-sized screen pretty high. And I've run a couple of different setups, and I want to talk you through some of the important factors of that. So not only are you gaining, maximizing your bang for buck when you're buying a screen, you're getting the right size right up front, but also so that you don't feel exhausted at the end of the day. In my business, we call that driver fatigue, is at the end of the day when you're done doing your job, how do you feel just from working the machine all day? And I would say this is angler fatigue. So just how you're using it, it's this incremental changes. By the end of the day, you feel more tired from one setup versus the other. And that's probably the last thing bass boat guys think about when they're setting up their boat, and it makes a huge impact. So let's start with a couple of pro setups. We're just gonna kind of found some pictures online. Let's start with this one of Drew Gill. As you can see, ergonomics is definitely taking the back seat in this particular setup. So not only is he's got his butt leaned out there, but he's also leaning way far forward, scratching down, looking at that screen. That looks like a pretty good sized screen too. And so it's actually raised up a bit. So somewhere in that setup, I would say he can use a little more height or even a little bit more screen, 19, 22 inch if he's gonna be up at that angle. There's another one here from Drew Gill from about the August 2024 timeframe. You can see he used to have it much higher. That's a smaller unit for sure, but you can see as you get a bigger screen, you can afford to get lower, and you have a smaller screen like in this image, you can get a little bit higher with it. Moving on to another Drew Gill one, you can see that we're getting a little bit more balanced. He's got it farther forward, he's got it up higher, and that may be the same as the first setup, I'm not exactly sure, but you can see that he's definitely favoring getting that screen up there. That's a pretty tall mount, I'd say arguably unnecessarily, right? He's not trying to put his foot under there, he's trying to get the screen higher. Let's move over to Alton Jones Jr. This is probably, I'd say, another bad example. Now let me jump in here. I am not claiming to know about forward-facing sonar or how to fish better than any of these guys, but I have spent a bit of time working on ergonomics like I talked through, and I think it's pretty obvious. He's pretty, he's hunched over, right? His neck is pretty low angle, and personally, I would not want to do that every day. There's better ways to do it. See, he's pretty well humped over on that one to be able to see that screen down low. Moving on, obviously a very popular angler, Mr. Jacob Wheeler. His setup is also very, very low. He's got a little, that top screen, that furthest most screen is a little bit further away from him, but you can see it's almost laying flat. That's really gonna help with glare in some situations, but in general, he's still looking down at his feet, right? So I would say could be better as well. Now let me jump in here again. There's a trade-off, right? The screen height is also gonna be impacting visibility, forward visibility. It's also hugely important. Not only do people have big crafts on their console that get in the way, but obviously a big screen up front gets in the way. So you don't want to go infinitely high. I used to have one that actually went up and down that gave me the height I needed, but it deployed out of the way when I was running. It had excellent visibility in both situations, but it was another step. We'll talk through that later. And the last one we have here, or not, second to last one we have is Trey McKinney. See, he's got his up there too. He's got an MBT screen pretty high up there and also being able to see that screen. So I'd say I like Trey's setup. Out of all these so far, I like Trey's setup the most right now. Now this last one, I don't even know who this is. If you happen to know who this is, go ahead and comment down below because I would like to know. But we're gonna use him for the next couple of slides here. Now this is gonna be the baseline for our calculation. Now I say calculation because myself and ChatGPT have worked together to figure out how to get a calculated number for a good size screen. I'd say the minimum size screen for your particular setup. Man, we got mosquitoes like crazy. Anyway, so the variables are gonna be, for you to fill in, is gonna be A, is gonna be the distance between your screen and your feet. I would say the center line of your body where you're standing. You're gonna have 1 foot on the pedal, 1 foot standing, find that center point. That's gonna be dimension A. Dimension B is gonna be the screen height off of the deck. So this one, there's obviously a limit here to the center point of each one of these screens just by the cradle. So the way this calculator works is it's gonna baseline the 9-inch, 10-inch, 12-inch, and 19, all the way up to 22 based on the minimum height you can mount it. That'll play into it. That's gonna be B. And you can obviously take this screen, put it on a razor scooter mount and raise it up. I ran that for a long time and it actually helps a lot. You can offset a smaller screen by moving it up. That's gonna raise your neck up and that's gonna make that screen get a lot closer to you, because if you think about it, you're creating that dimension D with how you're standing relative to the screen. I have the bottom of the triangle, I have your height, which is actually based on 5'11" and someone kind of crouched with a knee bent, kind of like he is in this image. And that's D dimension is going to be what we're calculating and using that to weigh into the recommendation for the screen. So as you raise up the screen, that's going to benefit you substantially. It is going to be a hit to forward visibility when you're operating the boat, but it will make a smaller screen look bigger for obvious reasons. It's getting much closer to your eye point. Okay, hopefully you're staying with me, and let's talk through that. So we got H, the height of the angler. We're going to leave that as fixed. That is a fixed dimension. We've got D is calculated. Don't worry about that one. I just need you to go measure what screen height you think you want, and then also the dimension from your center line of your screen where you think it's going to be to your feet. And so we're going to go from 30 inches to 46 inches in dimension A, and we're going to go from 6 inches, which is the minimum I want to say for the 10-inch, all the way up to 30 inches off the deck for the screen. That feels like a realistic maximum height. And the way this table is going to be laid out, I'm going to fill it in with recommended screen sizes here in a second, is in the top left quadrant, that's going to be kind of your medium-sized screens, mounted lower, mounted closer. Your feet are closer, like a tracker, or a 17-foot tracker, something shorter where your screen is getting closer to your feet. If I move to the lower left quadrant, that's going to be smaller screens mounted higher. If I move to the top right, that's going to be bigger screens mounted lower, like this guy here. And if I move to the bottom right, that's going to be more so your medium 10 to 12-inch screens, mounted higher, mounted further. Hopefully that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if that's making sense so far. Now let's go ahead and populate the screen. Ta-da! So here's how we read this. In the bottom left, this is going to be your smallest screen that I think you can get away with, and you're going to have to get it up off the deck. This is 30 inches away from your feet. It's mounted 30 inches up, and a 9-inch would work. Really, the sweet spot, based on my experience, is a minimum of a 10-inch. It's really where you want to be. Not only is it a much better unit, if you're talking Garmin's, way better than a 93 SV, but you're going to get a lot more resolution out of it, and which is going to help your focusing of your eye point. But also, it's just a good sweet spot. You get a wider band, right? If you look at that spot on the table, the 12-inch covers a lot of ground too. Run a 12, and I ran it on a razor scooter mount as well, which is about 24 inches off the deck, and really, really good visibility if you can get it up. But you need to at least get like an over the pedal mount to get it up off the ground, and that's going to be like your 14-inch, 12-inch, something like that, and that's going to include the center line of the screen. So if I go from the center line of the screen to the base, I think that's 5 1/4 inches. Don't quote me on that, 5 1/4. I'll put it on the screen here. That's going to include that. So if we're looking at, call it a 12-inch height off the base, off the deck, you can subtract 5 inches of that for the center line of the screen. Hopefully you're keeping up. And then of course you have a 19, which is this guy here, kind of filling out that top right corner there. And obviously you can get a 22. These are minimum sizes, right? You can always go bigger. And you can go on the top left, you can put a 19 on there. That's basically what this is. It's mounted on the bottom. It's 8 inches or so off the deck. It's 32 inches or so from my feet. It's actually a little bit close, the way this boat's set up. I've not wasted a bunch of time on it because I plan on upgrading boats, hopefully in the near future. I would love to move this pedal back 2 inches and get a little bit further away from it because it's plenty of screen. I can see it, no problem. But I would like to get a little bit further away, and what that will do, that'll fix my neck angle a little bit. But so far, so good. It works fine, and I know it's not permanent. I've played with a lot of different setups. I hope this detail and this calculator, this table, helps you come up with what you think the best size is, because the last thing I want you guys to do is go buy a screen and then go, I really wish I would have bought the 12. And there's no other way to figure this out other than you ask online and people just say, bigger is better. That's not really helpful because bigger is also $3,000 more in some cases, depending on the setup. And that's not always practical. You really want to say, well, bigger is better, but also moving it up is a lot better. So if you can, maybe you're sitting down, you're crappie fishing, you're sitting down and you got this screen up in your face, you can get away with a 10-inch all day long. Fantastic setup with a 10-inch. Probably don't need a 19, but if you're standing up, you're doing the whole thing. You start to favor a bigger screen. And like I said, anything you do to get up off the ground. A lot of rambling there, I know. If there's something I can better describe to you, please let me know in the comment section and I will definitely get back to you on it. Appreciate you coming along. Like and subscribe to the channel. If you haven't checked out the Get Fish Marine stuff, that's coming to market soon. And we'll see you on the next video.